The I'm Thankful Network, radio for inspiration, education, and collaboration. Show host and creator Sue Lundquist has the endless energy, compassion, and charisma to carry her mission. This mission of positive change and communication, while also creating a maintenance tool within a safe environment. Sue Lundquist and the other positive changing hosts for living a life of contribution. Weekly Monday through Friday, 9 to 10, or streaming live at I'mThankful.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to eShell Wisdom Radio on the I'm Thankful Network. I'm Shauna Holm, your host today, and we have a great show coming up. We have, once again, as I do monthly, Dr. Tim Gerstmar, naturopath, out of Redmond. His business is aspirenaturalhealth.com. And I absolutely love this man. He is my doctor. He's my children's doctor. And he is a wealth of information, extremely thorough. And this is why I love having him on the show. And today we're going to talk about colds and flu. And rather than just running to the prescription, whatever. I never even go to those places. We're to pharmacy, to like a regular pharmacy. Oh yeah, that's what they're called. Rather than doing that and plying your kid with God knows what, Dr. Gerstmar's got some great things to talk about. And I just want to do a quick plug for me. I have a class I'm going to be teaching. We have got coming up in February the Women of Wisdom Conference, which is really cool. They do this every year in Seattle. And this year, it's going to be up in Shoreline. You can go on their website, womenofwisdom.org. And I'm going to be teaching a class on Monday, the 21st of February from 9 till noon. And it is on manifesting with the womb and using those womb energies for creating. And it's going to be a really wonderful class and a really great way to start the week. So do check out their website, womenofwisdom.org. And you can also check out my website, shaunahome.com. And I have a list of classes on my website as well. And that's SHONAGHHOME.com. Okay. We ready to rock, Dr. Gerstmar?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Well, excuse me. Sorry about that. So, 2011. Just have to say thank you for having me on again. Appreciate it so much. And
absolutely.
Let's get some good information out to people.
Yeah.
So, cold and flus. Big deal. Obviously not as bad this year. We don't have all the talk that last year was all about the swine flu, the H1N1, and dire predictions and what was going to happen and lots of fear and panic. And thankfully not seeing that. Are seeing various waves of different stuff kind of floating around. And there have been some really nasty kind of colds and flus moving through, but nothing as big as was out there last year. Which
was like nothing, by the way. I mean, most of it was, I thought so much of that was nonsense.
Well, yeah, it really turned out not to be much of anything. And so we honestly don't know and if it could have been something bad or, there are a lot of theories floating around out there, let's say. But thankfully, bottom line, it wasn't a big deal for people.
And in terms of colds and flu,
right.
There's all this talk about having a vaccine for flu, which I would never take and I would never give my girls. They've had their vaccines, thank you very much. When they were younger, we're done. And I don't think that's necessarily the right approach for flu.
Well, let's just say I don't want to get into the huge vaccine issue because it is a
that's a whole other show.
Right. Well, it's something you never come back from, basically. I mean, there are very, very strong opinions on both sides of the argument. But let's just say, there's something called the Cochrane Review. It's a very conservative, very conventional medicine organization, and they take studies and they're very thorough and they screen through studies and they're very conservative in their recommendations. So they'll take a topic, they'll look through all the studies in the scientific literature that they can find, and they apply very stringent criteria to it, and then issue a recommendation based on what they come through that data. And so a couple of years ago, in 2008, a doctor named Dr. Jefferson, who is very, perhaps knows the most about all the influenza trials and the influenza vaccine and has looked thoroughly through that, came out with what's a very unpopular statement for conventional medicine and saying that there really isn't much data on the influenza vaccine. There's a lot of trials, but when they applied the very stringent criteria to them, there are only 4 that met a decent that met that decent criteria. 2 showed small benefit from the influenza vaccine, and 2 showed equivocal, like, we're not real sure. So the bottom line is, despite the conventional community pounding their fist about how critically important it is everybody get the flu vaccine, the data just isn't there.
Not surprising.
Right. If you really want the flu vaccine, it gives you peace of mind. It makes you feel better. It's reassuring. I don't tell people not to get the vaccine. I also just tell people, listen, the data doesn't really exist. And if you don't feel like getting it, there are a lot of great, alternative natural treatments that we can use.
Which we're going to discuss today.
Right, which is the focus of the show today. Right. So, don't, and I will say this, if you decide to get the flu vaccine, fine, that's your decision, that's your choice. And there may be some benefit to it, but the benefit doesn't seem to be tremendous. But don't think that's all and everything that you need to do.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of personal responsibility in terms of the food you're eating and your lifestyle and everything else. Absolutely.
So, I mean, we'll touch on some of the treatments, things people have heard about, echinacea, all sorts of other things for colds and flus, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. But, it also, those things don't excuse you from, getting enough sleep, good food, and all the kind of lifestyle things that we'll touch on, too.
Okay.
So, what are colds and flus, right? They're viral infections. Okay. So, one of the most overused things for antibiotics are colds and flus, right? So people feel bad. They go to their MD and they say, I want antibiotics because I feel bad and they should make me better. And I hope most people know about this, but we're going to touch on it. Antibiotics don't do anything for viral infections. Antibiotics only kill bacteria. Bacteria don't cause colds and flus. So don't ask for antibiotics for colds and flus. MDs, they're rushed for time. Patients, are pounding their fist, demanding that the doctor give them something. So we'll often, give in and give a prescription for antibiotics. Although I will say in the conventional community, there's a lot of pressure now against doctors giving antibiotics. And I think it's a smart thing. They're powerful medicines. We need to save them for serious infections, So don't ask for antibiotics. They don't work. The only reason to get an antibiotic is if you think it's moving from a flu, for example, into a pneumonia. So pneumonia is can be caused by a virus, but can be caused by bacteria. Much more serious, deadly infection.
Right.
And antibiotics can be useful there. So, if you think you're getting pneumonia, that's a good place. But if you just have a cold or flu, don't ask for antibiotics. So let's touch on, there's Tamiflu, right? That's the antiviral drug that's being put out there for treating the flu, not colds, of course, but the flu. So, but the data is really disappointing. So on average, if you take it, it'll reduce your length of having the flu by a day. 1 day. So you go from about 7 days to about 6 days, which, hey, it's a day, but it's really expensive. It has a bunch of side effects. It's, I think we can do a whole lot better, and we'll talk about that in the show. So here's the other piece. So colds, they think there's about, last I heard 200 different viruses that may cause the flu. And, everybody sort of keeps their fingers crossed. Maybe there'll be a vaccine. Colds. Maybe there'll be a vaccine against colds, and kind of, we sort of say, there's never really going to be one because there's 200 odd viruses that cause a cold, and you can't vaccinate against every one of them. But flus. So the thing is, people think there's one virus that causes the flu, but it's really not true. I mean, we have the influenza virus, of which there are many types, and there's influenza A and influenza B, and we're not really going to go there. But according to the latest data I saw, they said people who have the flu, and you can't see my little finger quotation marks here, about 15% of them, 15% have actual flu virus. The other 85% have what's called influenza-like illness, caused by other viruses that are not the flu virus, that cause symptoms that are just like what we would call the flu.
Okay.
So this is another problem with the flu vaccine. They do their best to pick out a couple of flu viruses they think are going to be a problem. But if this is accurate, and to the best of my knowledge it is, only 15% of people who have the flu are being caused by the viruses that the vaccines can theoretically protect against. That leaves 85% of people who have the flu who have no protection whatsoever from the viruses that cause it. So let's talk about symptoms, of course, right? They're a little bit different. A lot of people don't know the difference between a cold and a flu. So, colds tend to primarily be in your head. So you have a lot of congestion, a lot of coughing, you feel pretty crummy, you might have a low-grade fever, but you often don't. Tend to last a shorter period of time, somewhere between 3 and 5 days. Flus tend to be have a lot more significant symptoms. Obviously things like fevers, which we see more in kids, but adults get them too. Body aches are one of the big clues. So colds generally don't give you those kind of where your whole body hurts all over. Lots of fatigue. Colds give you fatigue too, but flus tend to be more profound. Congestion and runny noses. Again, colds a little bit more, but you can have it with the flu as well. Coughing, and then vomiting and diarrhea, basically, which are mostly flus, although, people call it, I hear the music.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We will be right back with Dr. Tim Gerstmar. We're talking about colds and flus and alternative methods of treatment. So you are listening to East Shell Wisdom on the I'm Thankful Network. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Shauna Holm, host of East Shell Wisdom on the I'm Thankful Network, Wednesdays live from 9 till 10 a.m. My book, East Shell Wisdom, 7 Teachings from the Mayan Sacred Feminine, is a love letter to women. East Shell is the Mayan cosmic mother, and her messages in this book encourage women to open to their true beauty through simple rituals of self-love and self-care. Wise woman author Susan Weed says of this book, quote, "If you dare to read it, you will be swept up in an astonishing inner adventure that will empower you deeply. The words of the grandmother's song echo in Shauna's words." End quote. This is a beautiful book to gift yourself and the women you love. It's available on Amazon.com and my website, www.shaunahome.com. SHONAGHHOME.com. My family has had cats for years, and every so often, the inevitable happens and one of them has an accident on the carpet. We all know how difficult it is to get rid of cat urine odors, but I have found the best product out there. Kids and Pets Stain and Odor Remover. Kids and Pets gets rid of urine odors permanently. It makes stains disappear, and it even works on the mattress if your child wets the bed. And what I love about Kids and Pets is that it's made entirely of enzymes, which means it's safe and non-toxic, no harmful chemicals, and it's a cruelty-free product. You can use Kids and Pets on carpets, fabric car seats, furniture, and your clothing. In fact, I was able to remove blue food coloring from a cotton blazer I thought I'd never wear again. Kids and Pets removed it easily. I am so glad I found this product because I am very careful about not bringing toxic chemical cleaners into my home. So try Kids and Pets for yourself. You will be thrilled. And look for them on Facebook. The Weston A. Price Foundation was created to put forth the research of Dr. Price, whose meticulous study of healthy cultures around the world has given us a foundation for traditional foods that promote vibrant health. The foundation is dedicated to restoring nutrient-dense foods to the human diet through education, research, and activism. The Weston A. Price Foundation supports organic and biodynamic farming, pasture feeding of livestock, community-supported farms, honest and informative labeling, and prepared parenting and nurturing therapies. You can join a local Weston A. Price chapter to attend monthly meetings and learn about these healing foods and practices. Creating community around healing foods is what Weston Price is all about. Check out their website, www.westonaprice.org. It's a virtual encyclopedia of information. Join the foundation and receive their stunning quarterly journal, Wise Traditions.
Sign up for the newsletter and enter yourself to win prizes at www.imthankful.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to eShell Wisdom Radio. Shauna Home on the I'm Thankful Network. We're here with Dr. Tim Gerstmar, who I adore. He is just a wealth of information. We're talking today about colds and flus. And Dr. Gerstmar just finished just discussing a little bit about the symptoms the difference between cold and a flu. And we're going to continue this now.
Right. So it's this will all become clear in just a minute. But we were just kind of running down the symptoms of flus. Colds are going to have, again, well, let's finish flu. So flus, fevers, body aches, lots of fatigue, can have runny noses, lots of coughing, can have vomiting and diarrhea, maybe not. Colds may have a fever, but often don't typically have body aches, do have fatigue, runny nose, and coughing, and that's and typically don't have vomiting and diarrhea with it. So that's typically the difference. Colds tend to last in the 3 to 5 day range. Typically, flus tend to last in the kind of 5 to 7 day range, typically. Mm-hmm. Some shorter, some longer. So understanding the symptoms of colds and flus, again, viral illnesses, now we can come a little bit to talking about the difference between how conventional alternative medicine deal with colds and flus. Again, broad brush strokes here, of course. Mm-hmm. But conventional medicine, by and large, is about managing the symptoms. Right. I mean, even they're going to acknowledge, the body is the one that has to ultimately fight the infection, resolve it, and get the person back to health again. But it's about managing the symptoms. So you talked about pharmacies, kind of at the beginning of the show, and people running out to the pharmacies. And if you think about, if anybody out there watches TV, think about the commercials that you're seeing and the products that you're seeing on TV. Not going to name names, but you can think about what kind of the average person who doesn't really have knowledge about alternative medicine, how they're going to deal with colds and flu. So obviously, they're going to take aspirin or Tylenol. They're going to bring down the fever to help get rid of those body aches. They're going to be drinking as much coffee as they can to try and get over the fatigue that they're dealing with and get back to doing what they have to do during their day. Decongestants for the runny nose, antitussives or cough suppressant medicines to deal with the coughs. Not typically, but, there's anti-nausea medicines to deal with the nausea, anti-diarrheal medicines to deal with the diarrhea. So it's basically just like, let's get rid of these symptoms and make people comfortable, let them get back to work. And then, as we mentioned before, there are antivirals. Now, again, most doctors are kind of holding them back for very serious viral infections and not just kind of throwing them out there. But you do see it happen. Again, people go and they pound their fist and they say, I feel bad. You've got to give me something. And so people get these antiviral medicines, which, again, there's some benefit, lots of side effects. So depends. And then antibiotics, of course, if the doctor gives in and gives it to them, or they think it's going to be more serious. But that's basically it. I mean, symptom management, antibiotics, antivirals, that's what's there. So alternative medicine, in contrast, we're all about increasing the efficiency of the immune response. Right. So let's delve into that a little more. Let's talk about symptoms. For example, so, people often think that the symptoms of colds and flus are caused by the colds and flus themselves, and they're not. Mm-hmm. So the symptoms of colds and flus are caused by your immune system. So we think, well, what would happen if someone had they got a virus and they had no symptoms whatsoever? And we do see it, and they typically get very sick and they might die. So that's people with immune deficiencies. That's the elderly who are very immune deficient. Mm-hmm. They go from, they were walking around and now they're in the hospital. Right. So, they don't get any symptoms because they don't have a good enough immune system for a whole variety of reasons to react appropriately. So let's run through the symptoms real quick and talk about why you get them. Okay. So fevers. Everybody's scared of fevers. We could do a whole show on this ourselves. And the knee-jerk reaction is, oh my God, 99 degrees, 100 degrees, you have to take some aspirin. Right. Right. I'm going to suggest that's the wrong answer.
Well, I don't think that used to be the conventional. Traditionally, you didn't do that.
Right. Well, so are fevers dangerous? They can be. Right. When they go above 105 degrees, they can they can be problematic. Here's the thing, though. The vast majority of healthy people, fevers don't go that high. So they don't get to 106, 107. They don't cause problems like that. I mean, it's caused by your body, and it's tightly regulated by your body. So it's one thing if you're landing in the hospital, you're really sick, you have a lot of problems. Then we have to keep a tight eye on fevers and make sure the temperature doesn't go too high. But in otherwise healthy people, that's really not something you have to worry about. Right. So why do you get fevers? Your body is raising the temperature of your body. It's doing that because at that higher temperature, 101, 102, 103, your immune cells work better and the flu or cold virus works worse.
Okay. So
studies have shown that when you lower a fever, you prolong the duration of the cold or flu. So because you're decreasing the temperature, making your immune cells work less effectively, and allowing the virus to work more effectively.
Okay.
So that's fevers. And in a nutshell, we could go on and on about it, but in a nutshell, what are body aches? Why do you have body aches? So your body is breaking down your muscles to make enough protein and amino acids to make all the antibodies against the cold and flu virus. That's why you're getting body aches. So if you stop that, you're depriving your immune cells of all of the raw materials that they need to make antibodies effectively.
Amazing.
Right? Why are you tired? Because all the energy is being focused on your immune system. So instead of saying, hey, we're going to get out and we're going to go run around and we're going to do all this, that, and the other thing, your system is saying, hang on, we need to take that energy and focus it all on immune function and getting over this cold and flu. So when you get a jump up and you run around, you do all your things, you're depriving your immune system of some of that energy that it needs to effectively mount an immune response. And we'll talk a little bit later about what happens when people don't rest.
Right.
How about runny nose? So why do you have all this snot? People hate all this snot. It's really irritating, and you're blowing your nose all the time, and you're congested, and right? But it is a immune response, right? Snot is full of all kinds of immune factors, right? So the cells inside your nose are secreting all of this mucus, or what people call snot, in order to defend themselves, right? So when people take decongestants and they dry up, they prevent those cells from being able to make mucus, they've shut down that immune response in their nose and their sinuses, and it's no longer there. Right?
God. It's ridiculous.
Well, but it's fine. People just don't know. I mean, we're short-circuiting all these immune factors.
Right, but you would think the medical system would be a little more responsible there. But anyway, whatever.
So why do people cough, right? Our lungs can't be full of mucus, essentially. They have to coughing is a reflex that gets that mucus out of the lungs, right? When people can't cough, they're in the hospital, and I've unfortunately seen it happen. They have to stick a tube down people's throats and vacuum out mucus, or they will drown and die, essentially. So you have to cough, or all that crud, all that mucus, all that stuff stays in the lungs. So when you take a cough suppressant, you're not able to cough that up. And if you have one of those wet coughs where you are really coughing up a lot of mucus and you stop it, that's a way to push yourself towards getting pneumonia. I'm not saying you will, but it's definitely a way to push yourself right towards that. And so what about vomiting and diarrhea? Really unpleasant, right? But if something is in your stomach that your body doesn't want to be in your stomach, you throw it up. If it's gone past your stomach and your body really doesn't want it in there, then it flushes it out the other end. And so that's diarrhea, right? So if we stop that, for example, if you eat some bad food and you get really nauseous, and then you take an anti-nausea medicine so you can't throw up, and then it goes down and your body then tries to make a diarrhea to get it out the other end, but then you take anti-diarrheal medication so you don't have diarrhea, then that stuff your body's trying to get rid of
stays there.
Can't get out.
Yeah.
Right? So, I think everybody's had this experience. I know my wife had a really good example. She and her dad went to the ballpark, got some food poisoning from both of it. He threw up. She, for whatever reason, didn't throw up. He felt better the next day, and she had days more of feeling absolutely horrible because she didn't get it out of her system. Now, that's not taking medicine. Sometimes, for whatever reason, you don't throw up when you should. But so that's why we don't want to, as uncomfortable as it is, in general, we don't want to stop vomiting and diarrhea. Again, any of these can be dangerous if you're having diarrhea for days and days and days,
right? Different deal. Yeah.
Different deal, but generally speaking. So these are why we get these symptoms, right? So it's not the virus. The fever is your body reacting. The body aches is your body reacting, your immune system. The fatigue is the diversion of energy. The runny nose, the coughing, the vomiting, the diarrhea are all responses for your immune system. So shutting all of that stuff down is shutting down all of these ways that your immune system is trying to help you get better. Right? So instead of focusing, now that's not to say, look, we don't want people to be miserable. And there are times and places where we may need to moderate these reactions, not shut them down entirely, but make people a little more comfortable. One example is if you are just so congested you can't sleep because you're just, every time you lay down, you're drowning in snot, mucus, then we may need to dry it up a little bit so you can get to sleep, right? But we don't want to shut it down entirely because that's defeating what the immune system is trying to do.
That's what the over-the-counter things will do, is shut it down completely. So, all right, when we get back, we're going to speak more of this great topic. You're listening to East Wisdom with Shauna Home on the I'm Thankful Network. We'll be right back. If you are ready to change your life in a truly profound way, then I invite you to meet Elisa Silling, founder of Awake in Joy. Elisa is a gifted healing practitioner here in the Seattle area. She is a life coach, hypnotherapist, and spiritual guide. Elisa can induct you into your highest potential, helping you to overcome personal limitations, fears, anxiety, and stress. Working with Elisa, you will align with your life's purpose. Clients have experienced greater clarity and a sense of personal empowerment that has helped them create abundance on every level. Awake in Joy offers personal healing sessions, classes, and retreats. Sessions may be in person or by phone. Are you ready for a personal transformation? Check out Elisa's website, www.awakenjoy.com. If you're thinking of doing a cleanse to restore health to your digestive system and bring your body back to balance, you need to check out European Rejuvenation Center in Factoria. European Rejuvenation Center is the place to go for colon hydrotherapy, endermology, and Swedish massage. They offer the Libby system for colon hydrotherapy, which is more effective than regular colonics for removing unwanted waste from the gut and assisting your body to return itself to a state of balance. Endermology originated in France and works directly to help remove cellulite. In addition, it stimulates lymphatic flow, helping the body to remove toxins. Swedish massage promotes relaxation and well-being. Owner Selena Lewandowski is knowledgeable and compassionate. Selena will assist you in your goals to bring your body back to balance. Mention this ad and receive $20 off your first appointment. Call 206-271-0041 or check out their website, EuropeanRejuvenationCenter.com. Hi, I'm Shauna Home, host of East Wisdom on the I'm Thankful Network, Wednesdays live from 9 till 10 a.m. My book, East Wisdom, 7 Teachings from the Mayan Sacred Feminine, is a love letter to women. Ishel is the Mayan cosmic mother, and her messages in this book encourage women to open to their true beauty through simple rituals of self-love and self-care. Wise woman author Susan Weed says of this book, quote, "If you dare to read it, you will be swept up in an astonishing inner adventure that will empower you deeply." The words of the grandmother's song echo in Shauna's words, end quote. This is a beautiful book to gift yourself and the women you love. It's available on Amazon.com and my website, www.shaunahome.com. SHONAGHHOME.com.
Like it on Facebook and enter yourself to win prizes at www.imthankful.com.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to eShell Wisdom Radio. Shauna Home on the I'm Thankful Network. We have such a good show today with Dr. Gerstmar. We're talking about colds and flus, and as usual, he has such excellent information. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate it. Hope people out there are finding it useful. And again, we were just chatting. People don't. No, I mean, they've just never thought about what symptoms are and why you get them. They just know it's crummy. It stinks. Mm-hmm. You feel bad. Mm-hmm. You don't want to feel bad anymore. And so, you see commercials and everybody else telling you, hey, take this pill. You won't feel bad anymore. So, of course people take it.
Right. Well, we live in a culture that's, I like to say, it's divorced itself from common sense almost entirely. And the grandmother wisdom is pretty much almost gone. So, most people they just listen to what their doctors say, who listen to what the pharmaceutical companies say, and it goes on and on. So.
Well, I mean, the point you say about traditional wisdom is true. And it's a piece of what we're going to touch on. Like, traditional wisdom isn't, take a Tylenol and decongestant and a cough suppressant and get back to work.
Right.
It's obviously, we're going to touch on that. So I think a good way to lead into that is you were just talking to me about how your daughter was sick.
Right.
And what you did. And so why don't you tell your story and then we'll go in from there.
Okay. Well, as a traditional food person, first of all, I'm all about building up a healthy immune system from the get-go. So, starting the school year with a healthy immune system. So that means lots of rest. So I call myself the sleep Nazi, and my girls are in bed at a decent hour. My 10-year-old at 8:30, my 12-year-old around 9. She can read for about 20 minutes, and then we're up at 6:30 every morning. So sleep is huge. And then my 10-year-old who was homesick yesterday, I make the broth. I make the bone broth, the cow bone broth, and the chicken broth, and gave her chicken broth, twice yesterday, a big steaming mug, which she asked for, because this is now what they associate with that. And she's home in bed and resting. And then today back to school feeling great. Like you'd never know she was sick, yet she was feeling crummy yesterday and the night before. So done.
And why don't you finish your story? Why don't you contrast that with what you've seen?
Oh, okay. Well, because I'm in a blended family, and so my husband has 2 kids who are now grown, but they were just raised very differently and on very different food. These kids were raised on a lot of processed food and a lot of fast food, which they continue to eat. And I remember thinking, okay, this is going to be an interesting social experiment here. And because my girls are raised on really traditional, really super healthy foods. And so just over the years, my observations, when his kids got sick, they would be sick for weeks. And it just would not go out, and they'd have this awful hacking cough, and they might stay home a day or two, and then they'd be back to school, and nothing would change in terms of their diet. It was still a lot of sugar, a lot of high-processed stuff, and then, the packets of whatever those pharmaceutical pill things are that they'd be popping. So they'd be shutting down the immune response, essentially, and then stressing their body more with all the processed food and all the sugar, and it would last for weeks. Whereas when my girls, if they got like a doozy of a sickness where they were home for 3, maybe 4 days, the first day I practically starve them. I give them mostly chicken broth, and they're feeling so crummy anyway. They're not that hungry. So hot chicken broth, a lot of bed rest. That's basically what I do, and then like nice hot steamy shower, wrap them in a towel. So all this sort of more, and then echinacea, the herbal echinacea though, in the like tonic form, where it's in the alcohol. So that kind of thing. But it never ever occurs to me to go to a pharmacy to get anything over the counter for anybody. It's just not my way. And I have super healthy kids.
Yeah.
So it's just a very interesting contrast to observe this.
Absolutely. And it gives us a really great lead into talking here about, what we're going to talk about. So, I mean, starting at the basics, obviously, it's about being as healthy as you can. Mm-hmm. Right? You want to have the best vitality, the most kind of resistance. Why do some people go through the season and everyone else around them is getting sick and they don't get sick?
Right.
I mean,
I should quickly say, also give the girls the cod liver oil, the fermented cod liver oil. So they get the D, and they get the A. And then also astragalus, the herbal astragalus,
Okay.
which is also in the alcohol. Whatever that form is, what do you call that when
It's a tincture.
a tincture? Thank you. Yes, so tincture of astragalus. That they get every day.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll shut up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. You know, we'll touch on some of the things like astragalus and echinacea kind of towards the end of the show.
Yeah.
But let's kind of cover the foundations, the basics first. So, I mean, as you laid it out, you know, all that stuff is great and helpful, and you know, I use supplements, and they're useful, but they are supplements to a healthy diet and lifestyle. And so, having that healthy diet and lifestyle. So, just some basic things people can do. Like your mom said, wash your hands, right? This isn't being, obsessive about washing your hands. Some people get that way and they keep, packets of hand sanitizer, and my God, they're going to like smear their kids entirely from head to foot in hand sanitizer all the time.
We don't do any of that.
So be sensible about it. You know, if you don't work at a hospital, you're not, you don't work at a place where there's tons of colds and flus, be sensible, but do wash your hands. I mean, most of the transmission we've seen is, people sneeze or cough, and it gets on people's hands. People touch their eyes, their mouth, their ears, and viruses get into the system. Unless someone walks up and sneezes right in your face, that's, it's mostly hand transmitted. So wash your hands sensibly. If you futz around and touch your mouth and your nose and your eyes a lot with your hands, do your best to retrain yourself. Keep your hands out of your eyes, nose, and mouth.
Which kids especially.
Well, what are you going to do? I mean, it's a piece of who they are. And not to digress too much, but it is a piece of how they build an immune system. So, I have a 1.5-year-old basically now, and we're kind of trailing out of it, but everything went in the mouth. And I see, having a 1.5-year-old and taking him around others, I see parents freaking out about, God, don't put that in your mouth. Obviously there are some things that shouldn't go in the mouth. Again, common sense, right? But it's a piece of how they build their immune system. They have to be exposed to all of that stuff. They have to get the colds and flus. Again, tiny digression. Kids need to get sick.
Yes,
it's really unpleasant.
That's right.
I don't like to see my little one sick. In fact, he's just getting over a cold now. It's miserable to see him so miserable, but it's necessary. It's how they build a proper immune system. Right. So washing hands, being sensible about it, avoiding, at the very least, avoiding sugar, in fast foods, the worst.
Right, and
offenders.
1 teaspoon of sugar depresses the immune system for 6 hours. 1 teaspoon.
So definitely do your best.
Yeah.
Do your best. Eating the best quality food that you can. Not everyone's going to measure up to you, Shauna, but
I know.
But do your best. At the very least, avoid the things are the worst, right? And I wanted to say, can you tell us the name of chicken broth? The name that...
Well, they refer to chicken broth as Jewish penicillin.
Right.
So there's a reason for that. It's got specific healing properties to it.
Definitely very useful. Drinking enough water. Sleep is a huge deal. People in this society, from little ones to all of us, tend to be chronically sleep deprived. Most people need 7 to 9 hours of sleep at night, and most of those people are in the 8 to 9 hour range. Most people are not doing well on 7-6 hours of sleep a night. I understand it's not always easy, and it's inconvenient, and it's your choice, but there are a few things that will give you bigger bang for your buck than getting enough sleep at night. And we can talk about cortisol rhythms, how things get out of track, how all this influence that it has on you. But the bottom line is, you need to sleep enough. If you don't, you depress your immune system. And we'll talk about when you get sick, you need to sleep more.
Even more. That's
Even
right.
more.
Yeah.
So we talked about washing your hands, avoiding the worst kind of foods, getting enough water, sleep, watching your stress, again, for the same reason. When you're stressed out, it lowers your immune system. So, we can't get away from stress and go lay on a beach and but we can manage our stress. And there's a lot of pieces. And again, it's really hard for a lot of people. But talking about, getting a lot for something that's fairly straightforward, that's a piece. So, watching your commitments, cutting back on your commitments, not trying to be Superman or Superwoman. Our society tells us we can do everything. We can have it all, be it all, do it all. And sadly, that's not true.
No, of course not.
We have to choose what works for us. Hopefully, having meaningful relationships in your life, having a meaningful job to the best of your ability, or gaining satisfaction from what you do, not overcommitting yourself, and making time for rest and relaxation. So rest and relaxation is not evil. You're not lazy. It's not a sin. It's not bad. It's necessary. You should enjoy your life. And stress management is a piece of that. And then obviously getting some exercise. So again, common sense, sensible exercise improves the immune system. Right. Too much exercise, going crazy at it, running marathons,
triathlons, which I did, yes.
Right, decreases the immune system, right? But sensibly exercising definitely increases the immune system. So basic diet and lifestyle stuff to be healthy. It doesn't cost money. We're not talking about supplements. We're not doing crazy unproven things here. I say that again with air quotes. But sensible diet and lifestyle. First step. First thing to do. So how do we put that in place, again, before we even talk about supplements, with colds and flus? So obviously, and this is way easier said than done, but if you feel sick, rest. I mean, nothing else we're going to talk about, none of the supplements, none of the other things are going to make much difference if you don't rest. And it's the single hardest thing I try and sell people on, and we'll talk more about it when we come back.
Yeah, great. You are listening to eShell Wisdom Radio on the I'm Thankful Network, and we're talking about colds and flu. Great show with Dr. Tim Gerstmar. We will be right back. My family has had cats for years, and every so often, the inevitable happens and one of them has an accident on the carpet. We all know how difficult it is to get rid of cat urine odors, but I have found the best product out there. Kids and Pets Stain and Odor Remover. Kids and Pets gets rid of urine odors permanently. It makes stains disappear, and it even works on the mattress if your child wets the bed. And what I love about Kids and Pets is that it's made entirely of enzymes, which means it's safe and non-toxic, no harmful chemicals, and it's a cruelty-free product. You can use Kids and Pets on carpets, fabric car seats, furniture, and your clothing. In fact, I was able to remove blue food coloring from a cotton blazer I thought I'd never wear again. Kids and Pets removed it easily. I am so glad I found this product because I am very careful about not bringing toxic chemical cleaners into my home. So try Kids and Pets for yourself. You will be thrilled. And look for them on Facebook. If you are ready to change your life in a truly profound way, then I invite you to meet Elisa Silling, founder of Awake in Joy. Elisa is a gifted healing practitioner here in the Seattle area. She is a life coach, hypnotherapist, and spiritual guide. Elisa can induct you into your highest potential, helping you to overcome personal limitations, fears, anxiety, and stress. Working with Elisa, you will align with your life's purpose. Clients have experienced greater clarity and a sense of personal empowerment that has helped them create abundance on every level. Awake in Joy offers personal healing sessions, classes, and retreats. Sessions may be in person or by phone. Are you ready for a personal transformation? Check out Elisa's website, www.awakenjoy.com. Dr. Tim Gerstmar, ND, of Aspire Natural Health in downtown Redmond, is not your average naturopathic doctor. Dr. Gerstmar provides his patients with competent and compassionate health care, which emphasizes disease prevention and high-level wellness. Restoration of health and balance is the goal in Dr. Gerstmar's practice. Patients receive a level of personal attention at each appointment that is unheard of in today's medical practices. Initial appointments run for 90 minutes, enabling Dr. Gerstmar to treat the whole patient, body, mind, and spirit. Schooled in the knowledge of real food and its healing effects on the body, Dr. Gerstmar endeavors to discover the cause of what's ailing his patients and correct the imbalance, incorporating healing foods, in addition to blending traditional healing techniques along with the latest diagnostics and treatments of modern medicine. check out his website, aspirenaturalhealth.com, or call for an appointment at 425-202-7849.
Sign up for the newsletter and enter yourself to win prizes at www.imthankful.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to East Shell Wisdom Radio. Shauna Home on the I'm Thankful Network. We're here today with my guest, Dr. Tim Gerstmar, having an excellent show. I'm learning so much about colds and flus. It's great because I know this stuff naturally, but I don't know the details of it. I just sort of do what I do intuitively, and it's so excellent to hear all this backed up, scientifically, and your information is so wonderful.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying. Thank you.
Oh, it's
Thank
great.
you. Yeah. I mean, again, it's like, a lot of it's common sense.
Sure, yes.
And it's understanding, what we've done for millennia and everything,
right, but people are so brainwashed by all of these commercials, and it's everywhere around them. And so they think this is the approach. This is the correct approach just because they hear it constantly. Well,
and we live in a fast-paced society, and everyone, we have a myth that, everyone can have everything. And
right.
So we were talking about, you have to have a healthy diet and lifestyle. Look,
right.
If you don't want to get colds and flus, and no supplements and nothing else replaces a healthy diet and
right.
lifestyle. So that's the single hardest piece. That's also the single biggest piece, and it kind of costs the least amount of money as far as people saying, well, I don't want to take this, I don't want to take that. Okay, then focus on your healthy diet and lifestyle,
right.
and that's a big, big, big piece of it. So what to do? So basically you kind of laid out what to do in your earlier example with your daughter. I mean, the biggest and most important thing you can do when you're sick is rest. Get more sleep, right? You're letting that energy divert from running errands, going to work, going to school, doing all the things you do in a day to immune function.
Right. And then the broths support the immune system, or good herbal teas, that kind of thing. And so the body doesn't have to, you're not bombarding the body with a lot of food that's difficult to digest.
Right. So, I typically tell people, listen, follow your appetite. So if you're not hungry, don't eat.
Right.
Right? You will not starve to death in a day or 2 days or 3 days. Drink plenty of fluids, because that's definitely, you don't want to withhold fluids. But if someone's not hungry, don't make them eat.
Right.
Okay? Or if you must make them eat, things like broths or a soup, a real kind of, non-hearty, just real basic soup
right.
Can be really great for people. One of my favorites personally is to mix half and half chicken broth and coconut milk together.
Ooh.
So you're getting the beneficial antiviral properties of coconut milk. You're kind of reinforcing with some extra calories. You're getting the beneficial effects of chicken broth, and it's great to sip on. So,
okay, quick question for you though: is that canned coconut milk, or is it one that you can?
Well, listen, there's ideal, and then there's.
Well, I know. I always go for the ideal. I mean,
right.
I would get it from the coconut.
I know you would.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. But I know also most people aren't going to do that.
Right.
Right. So yeah, there are a number of brands of good full fat coconut milk available in the can in the store, and it works just fine.
Great.
If you are
yes,
or
and some of my friends,
right? If you're committed and you take the time and the energy and you enjoy that, intensive food preparation, please. It's better. But are you still going to get great benefits from a good canned full fat coconut milk?
So just on the fly, and good to just have it in your pantry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And I would say, too, listen, if you're not going to make chicken, again, obviously making stocks and broths is fantastic, and I encourage everyone to do it. It's not that hard with a crock pot, essentially. If you can't do anything else, that sounds kind of bad. I don't mean it that way. If you're not going to devote the time and attention to lavishly making a broth, throw your bones in a crock pot, put water on it, a little bit of vinegar. At the very least, turn it on when you leave for work, turn it off when you come back for work, and it's going to be great.
Yep. Yep.
So, but even if that's too much, I think the Shelton's brand of chicken broth available in the can in the store is pretty decent. Doesn't have all the additives and everything else that a lot of other broths and stuff do, and it's from organic chickens, and I think it's great. And if you have nothing else, keep a couple of cans of Shelton's chicken broth. Again, no affiliation. Don't get anything from Shelton's here, but brand I like. In your cupboard, a couple cans of chicken broth. You can literally open the cans, pour them into a pot, heat it up a little bit, and serve it. 2 minutes.
Great.
Done. So, definitely keeping food light. I especially emphasize that with fevers. So, again, following appetite is the golden rule, the common sense rule. But if possible, when someone is feverish, you really want to avoid food. The one, if it's a little kid and they're breastfeeding, obviously, I would continue breastfeeding above all else because there's so many beneficial immune factors. Whole another show there potentially. But otherwise, older kids, adults, if they have a fever, if possible, withhold food. Again, a little bit of broth is fine and fluids are fine, but definitely don't want to be eating much. And most people who are feverish aren't going to have an appetite anyway, but sometimes you get people, you have to eat, you have to keep up your strength.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe if someone's really, really weak and debilitated, it's good to help them keep up their strength. But we're going to go on and on here.
Yeah.
So, but the bottom line is rest, right? Nothing else makes up for rest. If I'm pounding the pulpit here as hard as I can, it's because I understand. People go to work. They don't have much time off. They can't afford to lose the money. Kids can't miss school. It's a huge hassle. But the bottom line is, strategically, a few days off can get you back up and running rather than, a week or weeks of dragging on with feeling crummy, not being at your best at work, not getting your work done. Your kids are in school, but they're not learning, they're not paying attention, right?
Performance.
Right. And then often, as you said, they'll have a day here or there over the course of a week or two where they have to be out. Why not just concentrate it, take a couple of days off, really focus on rest, good food, and we'll talk about some supplements here in just a second that can help out with that and get well.
Okay, and let's talk about echinacea, for instance, because you hear that all the time. That would be the most common.
So echinacea is the most common. You hear about it. There's purportedly a lot of studies that show it doesn't work, and so most of those studies use the wrong form and the wrong dose and the wrong concentration, and then say, gee, it doesn't work. Right? So most of the things we can't exhaustively go into. There are tons of immune products. You mentioned echinacea, astragalus. There's medicinal mushrooms. There's tons and tons of products. Most of them are beneficial, but the dose is often incorrect. And it's often people are using way too little to have a beneficial effect. I mean, if you had a headache and you took a quarter of an aspirin and then you said, God, it doesn't work. It's because you didn't use enough, right? You have to dose appropriately. Echinacea is great, although, if you have autoimmune conditions, some people get worse from echinacea. They'll flare their, now, not everyone, but some people will flare their autoimmune conditions. Okay,
but in general?
In general, it's great. You just have to use enough. And the other piece is, it's best to begin at the very beginning. So let me give an example. I have a product that I use, and I don't really want to name names because I don't want to be, partisan here, but I have a few immune products I like a lot. And my son is sick, and the day before, I was coming down with a cold. So I hit it hard. But most people they'll take like one pill once or twice a day. I took 4 every 2 hours. So I used most of a bottle of this immune product over the course of a day, went to bed, got a good night's sleep, and was done with it.
Okay.
That's the kind of thing I see supplements properly used doing. But you have to begin at the very beginning. Right. So the morning I was like, I'm not feeling real great. I think I'm coming down with something. So I started right away. Right. If you wait till the end of, when I get home, the end of the day, I'll start taking stuff. It's too late. Yeah. Right?
And then echinacea, do you want that in tincture form? Because I know you see it all over, and not all echinacea is going to be effective. Yeah,
this is again a whole show about supplement quality, and I wish we could lay out all the details. Sure, we'll do that. But it doesn't have to be in tincture, but it has to be a good quality. So there's a lot of crummy, cheap echinacea out there using the wrong form and the wrong concentration, and it's no good. And those I've seen both tinctures, the little bottles of brown alcoholic liquid. This is what a tincture is, or pills or capsules, and they're crummy. So it's finding a good a quality brand, and I have some I recommend. And if people want to contact me on my Facebook or send me a message or message, right? And I will say just really quickly, the Facebook and the blog have been inactive for a while, but I have new web people on the job. Starting at the end of the month, we're going to revamp things and get them moving again.
Yeah, and to contact Dr. Gerstmar, your website is aspirenaturalhealth.com, and that you are located in downtown Redmond. And give your number, Dr. Gerstmar.
Phone number is 425-202-7849, 425-202-7849.
And once again, we could use an extra hour for this show. Tons of information.
Oh my God, I didn't realize we're out. We have so much more information.
I know. Well, we can continue this next month. Dr. Gerstmar's on my show once a month because he's so amazing.
Well, I'm sorry, folks, but remember, rest, good food, and using your immune products intelligently.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gerstmar, so much. Thanks, everybody. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you next week. You're listening to eShell Wisdom on the I'm Thankful Network.